shovel.
They look like they might dial some kid.
Let me tell you what I did. I actually did a little bit of shoveling, and I shouldn't have.
Why not?
About 5 or 6 years ago, my cardiologist said, you're too old to shovel.
Yeah.
People get heart attacks all the time. They walk out in the snow and they shovel, and they think they're tough guys. I did a little bit of shoveling just to see how it would go. Yeah. It went all right. But then we got killed on the back end of that snowstorm.
Again.
That was like from 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 10 o'clock last night. Those weathermen are clowns. They're clowns.
You're a meteorologist now, aren't you?
Clowns. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, we will get to Kyler Murray entering his name into the NFL draft in a few moments. But we begin today with the one good game of the weekend's playoff games. New Orleans hanging on to beat Philadelphia 20-14. The Eagles had the ball late and were moving, but Alshon Jeffery could not hang on to a good pass from Nick Foles at the Saints' 23-yard line.
Win the game.
The resulting tip was intercepted, and the game was effectively over. Wilbon, you picked the Eagles to win, so I ask you, did the Saints win this game, or did Alshon Jeffery, former Bear, lose it?
A week ago, I sat here and I didn't want to blame Cody Parkey, but I had to.
But you did. And
now I sit here, and I really like Alshon Jeffery.
Good player.
Terrific player. And by the way, they have some way to measure, who's got the best hands.
Doesn't drop a lot.
And he's on the short list.
Yeah, doesn't drop a lot.
He didn't drop anything. And this went right through his hands, hit the 23-yard line. They're going to win the game, and I'm going to look great because I picked the Eagles.
You did.
No, I didn't take the points or any of that junk. I picked them outright to win. And, Tony, there's a couple of turning points in this game. I got to give credit to the Saints. The fake punt.
Sean Payton.
And that's a great call.
4th and goal.
There's an interception where Foles got greedy early in the game at 14-0.
Right.
And there's a situation where the Eagles could have recovered a fumble after a strip of Drew Brees. They could have scored there to make it 21-0. They needed that third score, and they never got it.
So, to answer the question, I think the Saints won this game. I think, and the analogy that I would make was to Hagler and Hearns. And Tommy Hearns came out of that fight, and he was throwing haymakers, and the Eagles were throwing haymakers. And the Saints weathered that and then began to throw some haymakers of their own. Yeah. So I think that they won that fight. I think the fake punt was great. I think the 4th down. I know you don't give Sean Payton a lot of credit, but I think they did well.
But you had to think, when the Eagles are going, it looked like Foles in Soldier Field the previous week.
Yes.
You got to think, if Alshon Jeffery makes that catch at the 23-yard line, that he can fall 3 yards. He's so tall.
Oh, I agree.
Tony, they're going to win the game.
I think they could have. I think they could have won the game. I mean, it leads to this. What happens to Nick? The Magic, and the Magic was still there because that was good pass.
Wasn't his fault.
What do the Eagles do now with Nick Foles now that he lost? What do they do with him?
He sounded as he was gone. He was thanking people.
Can I tell you?
He was accepting a Tony
Let
award.
me tell you what the Eagles did not do, and they couldn't do. They
What?
Couldn't cover Michael Thomas.
No, they couldn't.
No. He
covered
caught 12
Who's covered him?
For 171.
The guy caught 125 passes this year or something like that. It's insane.
Got to cover him. Can't.
Ah, man. Tom Brady, whose public utterances amount mostly to nothing, got a little chesty immediately after the Patriots crushed the Chargers. Speaking to CBS's Tracy Wolfson, the Golden Boy said, quote, "Everybody thinks we suck and can't win any games," close quote. Tony, is Brady living in some alternative universe, or is he right that too many people have been too dismissive of the Patriots?
I'm going to say that he is not right, that people have been too dismissive of the Patriots. People like me looked at this weekend's games, looked at the way New England was coming into the game and said they were the most vulnerable of the home teams. But people like me also said this: they're not going to lose this game. They never lose this game. I think they're 12-1 in that round at Boston or Foxborough, whatever, with Brady and Belichick. I think what Brady is doing here is he's trying to graft onto the underdog sentiment for the Eagles last year that really worked for them, and trying to see if he can get people to believe it.
So many people think the Patriots look good in an underdog status.
Well, they don't.
What?
They've never been.
What?
No, they're not.
This is a situation Brady was fired up after the game. He has every right to be. But this is why Tom Brady's in that list of great athletes that I don't ever need to hear, because he never says jack. He hasn't said one memorable thing in his whole public life, okay? Not publicly.
But his wife had, because she said, he already throws it, you don't expect him to catch it.
So you remember something she said, nothing he said.
I do.
I don't care what he says. Everybody thinks the Patriots are great all the time.
That's right.
And anybody who doesn't think that, he shouldn't be paying attention to. So don't try to grab underdog cloaking.
You can't do that.
You have to be
crazy to think that the Patriots are always out of it. I mean, that's
how they out of it.
They
You see what
destroyed
Bill
the Chargers.
Belichick did to the Chargers defensively to Rivers. He made Rivers crazy. Rivers completed no passes outside the pocket. All right, and he flushed him out of there with pass rush up the middle and defensively.
Can I say one other thing?
Chargers had never seen.
Can I say one other thing that he did, and this is what makes him great because it's always different? A lot of people think that Rob Gronkowski is no longer a preeminent pass catcher.
Yeah.
But Rob Gronkowski is a blocking tight end. And James Devlin as the fullback. They are opening up gigantic. Sony Michel had how many yards? 125?
And so who thinks they suck and can't win a game?
Nobody is
who
the
thinks
correct
that?
answer. Nobody.
Okay.
The LA Rams were down 7-3 to the Dallas Cowboys and then scored the next 20 points. And I don't think they were ever in particular jeopardy of losing that game. They had two runners, Todd Gurley as expected and C.J. Anderson as not expected, go over 100 yards each. And the Rams held Ezekiel Elliott to 47 yards in 20 carries. Wilbon, did genius in residence Sean McVay live up to his billing?
Yes. Yes. He ran roughshod over a Cowboys defense that had been praised.
Good defense.
And legitimately so. Well, they have 270-plus yards rushing. You don't see it. That sounds like a Nebraska or Oklahoma rushing total in the 1980s, not a playoff game, Tony. And it wasn't bad weather. You didn't go out there because it was mud or snow in Los Angeles. This was an attack. This was something he, like Belichick, if we're going to praise Belichick,
100%.
we got to praise him as well.
100%.
He saw this, he knew this, he felt this. They went with this game plan, and it worked.
There is this notion that the LA Rams, because they score a lot of points, and it's a track meet for them sometimes, that they are a dainty team. They were not a dainty team with Ezekiel Elliott.
No.
They were not. And if you're going to compare somebody to a genius, you have to compare him to Belichick. And if you come up with a different plan, when you run it 48 times and throw it 28 times, you have said, you see, I'll change. McVay is saying, you can't put me in a box.
Well, no, you can't. And, Tony, but this is what happens. And this theme, we talk about this all the time. It's why the team with the bye week is something like 82-30 or 80-32 over the last 100-plus games, because you have time to set this up. The Rams had time to study the Dallas Cowboys, including watching them last weekend to figure out what they were going to do. And that's, I think, why you see really smart coaches have a great advantage in that next week.
So a month ago, before these teams started getting into losing habits, before Kansas City and New England and the Rams and the Saints fell upon some hard times, a month ago, these were the final four teams that everybody had. We thought they had separated themselves from the pack, and now we've got that four grouping that we thought was that good. We got them.
You want them?
I do. I want to see it.
I'm not sure.
I want to see it.
I don't know if I want them.
Track meet, baby.
Tony, I know you mostly napped through the weekend playoff opener.
No, I didn't. I watched it. No, it stunk. It stunk. I watched it.
Well, the Colts napped too. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs won the franchise's first home playoff game in 25 years. Tyreek Hill and Darnell Williams had to share the credit, where the Chiefs defense has sacked Andrew Luck, your boy, 3 times, batted down 4 of his passes, and prevented the Colts from converting even one of their 9 third-down chances. Tone, did this win end any doubts you might have had about young Mahomes and Andy Reid in these playoffs?
And the short answer is no. It doesn't wipe out any doubts that I had. Patrick Mahomes is a great talent. He's going to be the MVP. He's great. But he's a rookie. Essentially, he's a rookie.
Yeah.
This coming up game is going to be his second playoff game. The jury's still out on him in this sort of pressure circumstance. Andy Reid's lost a lot of playoff games. Andy Reid's career is 12-13. So does it remove all doubts? It does not. They smothered Indianapolis. I thought that would be a closer game. That was no game at all. I give them all the credit in the world. But you know, and you feel the same way. I got to see it twice. Well, I got to see it again.
To see it twice, we have to see it against Bill Belichick and the Golden Boy.
That's right. That's right.
And that's why no, this doesn't erase any doubts. We're gonna spend all week looking for reasons to doubt the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's a legitimate thing. That's what you do in pro sports. Who's vulnerable to a particular opponent? It seems to me that Andy Reid may be 12-13. Andy Reid is a great
he is.
Coach.
Yes.
Like Marty Schottenheimer before him.
Couldn't win playoffs.
Great coach. And it seems like when they get in the kinds of games that they have upcoming. But defensively, Tony, they took Andrew Luck.
Killed him.
And they just dismissed him.
No, they did.
But here's the thing. The Chiefs do get to play at home again. They have been great at home this season and far less on the road, but they're not on the road.
Do you know why they get to play at home in this game? Because of that Miami play. That crazy play at the end of the game.
Knocked the Patriots down a peg.
Let me just say this. Patrick Mahomes had no touchdown passes.
Yesterday.
They're 3-0 when he has no
Saturday.
touchdown passes, which is a big deal. But you know what he's got that nobody else got? Kelsey.
Yeah.
That guy is a stud.
So you're late to the party putting Kelsey above Gronk. Because it is this point, Kelsey above Gronk.
As an offensive player right now, yeah. All right, Wilbon, let's make our first foray. You've been starting already into Championship Sunday. You've been on the edges on that.
I have been.
We have the Rams at the Saints in a rematch, and we have the Patriots at the Chiefs in a rematch as well. What are your initial impressions? Obviously, you like New England.
One of my initial impressions is when I'm sitting there watching the Patriots, whatever people there are, not that many, despite what Brady said, why would you ever take anybody against the Patriots until you see them knocked out?
Well, because in this case, the reason you would do that is the Chiefs allow 34 points a game on the road and only 17
half that many at home,
which is an enormous disparity.
I get that.
That's one.
Let me see them do it to these guys before I pick them. And I think the Saints could blow out the Rams. I think the Saints get
But you don't think the Rams could blow out the Saints?
No. I think the Saints got away with one yesterday. Yeah. The two teams that could beat the Saints are now out. The Eagles and the Bears, one of those teams could beat the Saints and didn't beat the Saints, and now I think the Saints go roughshod over the Rams.
So I know you don't pay attention to odds, but I do, and many millions of people pay attention to odds. Both games have opened up with the home team as a 3-point favorite.
That's the pick'em.
Which means it's a pick'em game.
Yeah.
Which means they're waiting to see where the line goes on something like this. The one thing that interests me is the fact that they put up a lot of points against each other. Here, look. The Saints beat the Rams in New Orleans 45-35.
What was that game?
The Patriots in New Orleans.
The date.
I have no idea.
Doesn't matter where it was. It matters when it was.
The Patriots beat the Chiefs in New England early in the season 43-40. The over-under on both these games is right around 57 or 57
They're not getting anywhere near that.
I like the over. I like the over in both of these games. You learned nothing
the last couple of weeks. I told you yesterday I believe in tech.
I've learned nothing in many years.
I told you that the Saints were going to score 20 or 21 and the Eagles could win.
You just said they could blow out the Rams.
They could blow out. That doesn't mean two teams are going to score a lot of points.
Do you know the last time I sat here and talked about what would surprise me if somebody blew somebody out? No way Clemson could ever blow out Alabama.
I didn't say that.
So I've shut my yap on this one. Let's take a break. Coming up, Kyler Murray enters his name into the NFL draft. Is he turning his back on baseball, or is this just a negotiating tactic?
Saints-Rams, by the way, was November 4. That was forever ago. Did Blake Griffin intentionally avoid a handshake with your boy Steve Ballmer?
Yeah, I thought so. Did you?
Intentionally?
Yes, absolutely.
He was moving too quickly.
No. Oh, stop. He saw him. Ballmer's 6'4". He saw him.
But Blake is 6'9". He looked right over him.
No.
It would count.
Time to turn the show over to you, which shows the generosity of the hosts and the laziness of the producers. Let me see.
Throwing the producers under the bus.
Kyler Murray has declared for the NFL draft. Does that close the door on baseball?
It doesn't close the door on Jack. We don't even know if and where he'd be drafted in the NFL. He'll be drafted. But again, at 5'11", 200 pounds, he'd be the smallest starting quarterback in the NFL.
I think he's 5'9".
He'd be like Doug Flutie.
5'11".
He's not 5'9". Whatever the case is, there's uncertainty. Also, he could just use this as leverage to get more money out of the A's, except the A's don't have any money.
Well, that's what's being said, that I don't know how accurate this is, that if he were to get $15 million from Oakland, he would have turned his back on football. To me, if you think that you've got a player who's out of the minors in 2 to 3 years and is a 10-year starter for you, $15 million is nothing, even in Oakland, because that guy's going to make $100 million over the course of those 10 years as a starter. I don't know what Oakland thinks about him, but this strikes me as negotiation, keeping both sides involved in it.
And you'd call that smart, wouldn't you?
Sure I would.
If you were in this situation and you had a representative who would do that, Mr. Scott Morris?
Yeah, sure I would.
Should the NFL be okay with the Dolphins trying to tank?
Okay, so this is an Adam Schefter report that the Dolphins are going to try to tank, so not this year, but at the end of next year, they could be in it for Tua Tagovailoa. They could do that. I don't think that the NFL should allow this to happen. Look, if I'm Brian Flores, who's going to be their head coach, everybody says, I don't want a 1-15 or an 0-16. I don't want the Hugh Jackson treatment. I want to win as many games as I can and look no further than the Bears as a team that went from worst to first. I don't like this idea.
They also got a quarterback, which goes back to Sheffield.
Quarterback who you didn't like when they got him.
We gave up for him. Now, I always have to set the record straight there. But, Tony, by the way, you skipped over a quarterback who would be chosen ahead of Tagovailoa if they both come out the same year.
Who?
The Clemson quarterback.
No, he can't come out that year.
I just if they come out.
Right, but he can't come out that year.
He has to play 2 more years, obviously.
That's right.
But, Tony, the quarterback's not worth it. It's the most important position in sports in America. Huh?
Should Blake Griffin have taken the time to shake Steve Ballmer's hand?
Not really. And this is not a situation. Watch this. Blake, he's looking right. Up. He just a quick
He knew
look.
who it was. The guy was saying Blake.
That was a no-look snub. That's what that was. He doesn't. Ballmer got rid of him. Ballmer traded him. He didn't leave as a free agent. Ballmer said you're out. So Blake Griffin owes Ballmer nothing.
We disagree on that.
And I like Ballmer.
I think this is terrible. Blake Griffin, Steve Ballmer signed Blake Griffin to a contract that agreed to pay him $171 million.
Okay.
That is generational
and
wealth.
they got rid of him.
And got rid of him
half a season in.
But the contract is still valid. The common
somebody else is paying it.
Common courtesy. Yeah, but Ballmer signed it. Common courtesy says the guy is there. You just say hello. He knew it was him. Just say hello.
Common courtesy says if you get rid of me, I don't need to look at you. And you, of all people, would be just that vengeful if it happened to you.
Are you saying I hold a grudge?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Me?
Oh, him. Ballmer looks skinny in that, too.
He does. He looks good.
Is Kyrie right that lack of experience is what's holding back the Celtics?
What in God's name is he talking about?
I don't know.
Okay, Kyrie Irving has been to 3 finals and made the game-winning shot in a Game 7.
Yeah.
All right? Al Horford not only played on 2 NCAA championship teams, been in the league for 12 years.
Played a lot of playoff
Gordon Hayward's been in 2 different playoffs. And by the way, let me point out, every single person on the Celtics that matters went to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals last year and played 19 playoffs to get there. So to me, Kyrie Irving is right there with Kevin Durant, where he just says stuff that sounds dopey. I'm no longer listening to him.
Well, you sound like me with the Golden Boy.
I'm not listening.
There's no need to listen.
There's no point.
In Kyrie's case, there is a need to listen because I'm actually there, and Kyrie is great in back and forth, and he has reasons for things. I don't necessarily
Were you at this game?
I wasn't at this one. Let me just say this. I'm okay with whatever Kyrie said. The only thing I didn't like was the gesticulation in the open court.
That's Brady-like, isn't it?
Brady-like. It's a Boston thing. Just talk to the guys in the locker room. I'm okay with what he said.
I'm not.
I am.
Enough email. It's crazy. Let's take one last break. Still to come. Duke. Kyrie's old school.
That's right.
7 games, I think, barely survives
11.
Florida State's upset bid.
And did Antonio Brown give yet another clue that he's played his final game for the Steelers?
Can we get out of him? Can we stop with him?
Who?
Antonio Brown. I mean, come on.
Oh.
Until he signs somewhere, can we stop?
Apparently he's going to be San Francisco. He'll be on the other coast. You won't pay him any attention.
No,
when Domino every PTI.
Hey, shout out. Happy time, people. Happy 39th birthday, Byron Leftwich. Leftwich has been named offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
A man.
Bruce Arians, an offensive coach himself, will let Leftwich call plays. And maybe between them, they can get Jameis Winston on track. Ruben Leftwich is a favorite of ours.
Yes.
Because he grew up in D.C., and we remember that play at Marshall after Leftwich broke his leg when his teammates carried him to the line of scrimmage.
I'll go years before that. 14 years old. How about this prediction at Woodson High School? Mr. Wilbon, you're going to be writing about me one day soon. How about that from a 14-year-old quarterback?
I hope he still calls you Mr. Wilbon.
Not anymore.
Happy anniversary to the Minnesota Vikings. On this day last year, trailing the Saints by a point with 10 seconds remaining in the divisional playoff game, Case Keenum hit Stephon Diggs for a miraculous 61-yard touchdown. And it was miraculous because it's the worst defensive play anyone has ever seen. The following week, the Vikings lost to the Eagles, who made no such stupid play.
That got Stephon Diggs that commercial. Does he have a commercial without that play?
No.
The play got him personally some pub.
Happy trails to Florida State's upset bid of Duke. Florida State was poised to be the #1 Duke team for the 3rd time in Tallahassee.
Vitale called it.
The Seminoles were up by 1 point with 2.8 seconds to go when somehow they left Cam Reddish alone on the right side of the arc. And Reddish was already 8 of 14 from the field and had scored 20 points, took an inbounds pass, and calmly swished the game winner.
For people who only think Vitale can screen, were we watching this and you see what Dickie B said? There's going to be a screen. He's going to come around it and get the pass and take the shot, and he did.
No, that was a jump off the couch moment for me. It really was. We're running out of show. We go to the big finish.
Let's do it.
James Harden scored 30-plus for the 16th straight time. but also went, 1 for 17 from 3 in a loss to the Magic. Are you impressed?
Not really. That ain't the big news out of Houston. Clint Capella out for 4 to 6 weeks with a thumb injury, Tony. That's huge. The White Sox have reportedly offered 8 years to Manny Machado. Can that get a deal done?
So we lost at Baltimore, and the White Sox have lost for a long time.
Yeah, but they're on the come. They're coming.
You sure?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
Steve Sarkisian will return to Alabama as offensive coordinator. Is that a big deal?
Yeah, especially in Arizona where he turned down the Cardinals. Turned down the NFL to stay in college, but it's, Alabama. 6'10" John Isner lost at the Australian Open to 6'11" American Riley Opelka. Your thoughts?
That's a freak show. I covered tennis for a long time. Most guys were like between 5'6" and
Eddie
5'10".
Harold
These
Solomon.
guys are giants. I didn't think tennis players could
Wow.
be that big. Last one, Antonio Brown removed Steelers from his Twitter bio. Is that significant?
Jerry Rice says Brown wants to come to the Niners badly.
Can go. Can go. Sure, be great.
Steelers will get rid of him.
Out of time. Try and do better the next time. I'm Tony Kornheiser.
And I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. You can get the PTI podcast on the ESPN app or Apple Podcast.
Melissa Mollet, enjoy the Snow Angels. Shout out.
Snowing.
12 inches at my house.